Okay, it's big news and no one's really unpicking this. First home buyers are going to get some big changes shortly, and it's in that 800,000 to 1.5 million where they're going to get hammered. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about how to get around it and what's happening with the first home buyer incentives.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Look who we have here. We have the best broker in DY, Northern Beaches of Sydney, Zach.
Morning, Mark. How are you?
Good, you?
Yeah, good. I'm not sure the same can be said for some of the first home buyers in this price bracket of 800,000 to 1.5 million are doing so well.
Yeah, so I think it's a little bit of a duty of care of what we got going on here, just letting people know, what exactly is happening out there. The market's definitely this last 3 months showing some love. How much of that, Zach, that love is from first home buyers? Is it a massive number that's consuming?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of inquiry that's driving our way from the first home buyer market. As you know, we've got one of our brokers, Christian Stevens, has the First Home Buyer Australia group on Facebook, which is the largest first home buyer group, and that's grown significantly over the last 6 months, which was even before this Liberal government opt-in to land tax was available, but we knew about it. So we saw that getting promoted around the middle of last year, that it was going to come in the start of 2023, and that drove a lot of inquiry, and we saw a lot of uptick in interest through first home buyers through our groups and various channels. So it's certainly been a pump for the first home buyers.
Yeah,
could it be said? Go ahead, Billy.
Well, I was saying that we've really noticed it in our open home numbers as well. The price points that have been arguably performing the best have been the entry level stock and pushing up to 1.5 million.
You guys have had numbers of like 40 people, 40 groups and opens for properties that are within the first home buyer bracket. So
it's true.
Even I've seen those numbers at your opens, which is fantastic.
It's true.
But I suppose the key is that there is.
Do you reckon it could be said?
Go again, Mark.
Sorry, say that again.
There is still until the 30th of June for these first home buyers to make the most.
Okay. And do you think that there was an incentive in terms of politically, was there a push from governments to sort of save that market that was on the way down? Like, so the market was, negative 5, 10, 15% in some regions. Do you think that the government came along and strong-armed and said, look, we're going to pump up the market and help first home buyers, and that was sort of done on purpose to sort of stop that market going negative?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a big promise that any government can push with, first home buyer market being historically strong. I guess it was good to see it come into action with the last Liberal government, and at this point, the proposal from the Labor government is still going to go through Senate. Now, I don't know what that process looks like, but it's a promise that on the 1st of July that will be enacted, but it's still yet to pass through Parliament. In terms of helping that market out, like that's exactly what the Liberal government did. It's an extra $66,000 that someone purchasing their first home at $1.5 million at that price point gets to put back in their pocket towards their deposit. So it's a massive help.
So it was a little bit of a legacy thing, but these things do take, from what you're saying, they can take 12 months, 24 months to come through, to trickle through to the consumer actually having it available to them. So at the moment, what is going to be removed from that 800,000 to 1.5 million on the 1st of July. So what exactly is going to happen? And I think maybe we have to understand, first of all, what's available for first home buyers, to then understand what's been taken off the table for first home buyers, because there may be a little bit of a surge over the next 3 months because of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the moment, up to 600,000, you pay no stamp duty, and between and then up to $1.5 million, you have the option to opt in to annual land tax. Now, in the middle there is up to 800,000.
Sorry, land tax?
Land tax, that's right, annually.
So it's not called stamp duty. They change the wording of it, do they?
At the moment, up to the 30th of June, it's an opt into land tax you have the opportunity for, which is land tax calculated on the value of the land only, whereas stamp duty is calculated on the property purchase price, land plus buildings. So it's a different method of calculation, and it's not paying off the balance of what you think the stamp duty is. It's just an annual land tax. You're not paying off a balance of stamp duty. It's however long you own the property for, you pay that annual land tax, adjusted annually. So that's from the 850 to 1.5 million dollars. I mean, again, you get the concessional stuff at the moment between 600 and 850, and then when you look forward to what the Labor government's proposing, what's taken off the table is any concession or opt-in for any land tax from 1 million to 1.5. So the Labor government will stop any benefit for first home buyers at $1 million. But they're actually lifting the cap of zero stamp duty payable to $800,000. So at the moment, it's zero stamp duty on 600,000, and the new one is going to be zero stamp duty on 800,000, and with a concessional rate up to $1 million in purchase price. So you don't pay the whole hog up to $1 million.
So
this is a really confusing message for the community.
Swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, I know we're trying to clear it up today, but I took a call on Saturday in the office where a lady said, I'm buying my property, do I have to pay land tax? It's really the wording of this. Let's clear up today for first home buyers, because it is specific. It is never been done before. So there's a lot of training and education around how this exactly gets spoken about. For the dummies, can you say that again?
So currently, until the 30th of June, you can opt in for an annual land tax for a purchase price of up to $1.5 million. That's the big picture of it all. If you want to pay stamp duty, then you can, but there's a concessional rate on offer up to $800,000 from $600,000. So I'm sort of working backwards here from the upper limit, and then you can opt to pay no stamps whatsoever for $600,000. What's coming in on the 1st of July is that $0 for stamp duty will be up to $800,000 in property value. And then from $800,000 to $1 million, you will pay a concessional rate, so a discounted rate of stamp duty, and that's it. So there's nothing above $1 million.
So the buyers that are hurting here are really the ones that are looking from 800 up to 1.5, and initially thought they were going into the market where they could opt into a land tax option where they wouldn't need to pay all the stamp duty up front, ultimately sort of taking up to 66,000 out of their pocket. And where we've got those numbers from is the stamp duty you'd pay on a purchase price of 1.5 million. So if you thought you're going to make that saving, and Zach, come on, you're drifting. If you thought you were going into the market and saving that, and that was going straight into your deposit, very quickly, as of the 1st of July, you're going to be losing the benefit of that. So there is a sort of hype of activity for buyers that are ready to go to find something, especially in those upper price points as a first-time buyer.
I sort of don't mind it coming on the table and being taken off the table. I found that developers often do that with pricing of properties. they'll introduce a price discount where the price of the site of the units come down, and then they'll put the prices back up. And what it actually does is it creates creates people emotionally to lunge forward and make the move, because it's like a sale. When it's for a limited time only, people move, and when it's not, they're just like, nah, well, whatever. So I sort of don't mind it, but it sort of sucks.
Well, it's even interesting because the current incentive up to $1.5 million allows stock such as 3-bedroom units near the beach. I know you guys have a couple of those, but they're eligible for first home buyers, which is not what you typically expect at that price point. So there is that hive of activity of people that are now in a rush to get their home loan pre-approval sorted, to have their solicitor lodge their application form, and to go and make an offer on a property. And for it to be opted into, the land tax that is, your solicitor needs to lodge the form with the government as you sign the contract. So if you sign the contract on a date before the 30th of June this year, and you lodge the form before settlement and before the 30th of June, then you've opted in. After settlement, you can't change it. But as long as you've signed the contract and you've lodged the form before the 30th of June, you have opted in for annual land tax, and you will be able to continue paying land tax for as long as you hold that property.
And guys and girls, if you are getting confused today, because I am getting confused today, they have changed the language. Zach. Zach is using it, is dancing around it beautifully, but it's not dancing around my mind beautifully. They have changed the language from no stamp duty to we're going to charge you something, and we're going to call it lamb tax. I was talking this morning. Now, with this sugar hit between 800 to 105, Zach, you're the guy that's writing the loans out there in the marketplace. Would it be right to say that they simply wrapped in that money that they had saved for stamp duty, and they wrapped that into their deposit? So that, for instance, I'll give you the greater example. 1.5, you were paying $60,000 stamp duty. So there is the ability now to buy something for 1.5 as a first home buyer, take that 60,000, make it part of your deposit, and then have a annual land tax, which was meant to be a stamp duty, payable every year. That must be a sugar hit for the market and a first home buyer.
Yeah, absolutely. And it comes back to the annual land tax on that upper limit of $1.5 million is just under $3,000, around $2,700 per annum. So you look at that into what you would pay in upfront stamps, you've got a 20 plus year break even point. So you look at the stats on people staying in their first home, everyone seems to sell, or 50% to 60% seem to sell in the first 10 to 11 years. So you've made back half, even if you're living in it for 10 years. You sell it after 2 years, you've only paid 2 years of annual land tax.
You don't pay it back at the end. If you sell it at 2 years, 3 years, 4 years.
Good point, Billy. Can you say that again?
So just to confirm, guys, if you're opting into this method that's currently on the table, if you're selling in after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you don't then owe the rest of the land tax at the end. It's just
that's exactly right. It's an annual land tax. It's not paying off the balance of stamps. It's one or the other. You either pay the upfront stamps or you pay an annual land tax every year that you own the property.
And the break even is at about 20 years for that example. Depending on.
All right, I think we've done a great cover today. Zach, you're doing loans all around New South Wales. Can we put your number in here for people?
Absolutely. I'm not geographically restricted, so give me a call, drop me an email, I'll be happy to help.
And
Billy will whack it into the comments.
Yeah, absolutely, we can do that. I think the other thing as well that needs to be mentioned is that the loans that you are doing, you're saying a lot of the people that have got the option to, they are opting in.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, it's another say 4% that they've got in their pocket that now doesn't need to be paid to the government. That can be additional equity in their property. That can be used for fitting out with furniture, because being a first home buyer, you know, unlikely to have the full suite of furniture required for your first home. But if you do, great. If you want to upgrade, you might have that extra cash. But yeah, people are putting it back in as equity or putting it in their offset account.
Holding as much.
How many people are using this service that's been taken off the table? Call it service, call it sugar hit, whatever we want to call it. So just for anyone who's just tuned in, someone that's buying between 800,000 and 1.5 that doesn't want to pay stamp duty has the ability to pay a little bit every year. I'm not going to use the word to confuse people, but they can. How many people are actually sitting in that category, Zach, that you're riding alone? Is that like you never see them, or like that's a big market for you?
100% of the first home buyers that I encounter are opting in for the land tax at the moment. And that is with the additional thought when I advise them, what are your goals and what are your objectives with this property? How long do you think you're going to be staying in this property? So that they can then run the numbers themselves after I give them the estimated land tax calculation. And they can say, well, I'm only going to be in here for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. And this is where I'll land compared to paying the stamp duty. Now, again, that's to be viewed in line with the purchase price. If it's $750,000, you've still got a concession of stamp duty to be paid. The stamp duty on that is around $12,000. So annual land tax terms, that's about 8 or 9 years. So if you're going to be staying in that property for 10 plus years, it's probably cheaper for you to pay the upfront stamps at a concessional rate. So it's down to the advice that you've been given, the property price you purchase, and how that stacks up with your mid to long-term goals with that property.
But the big message here is that it's not on the table forever. And that's along with all the other incentives, combined with your 5% deposits, it has brought people's property journeys forward a matter of years. If you've got an extra 60, 70 grand in your pocket, that can take 2 years to save. So it's no wonder it's brought people forward on their timeline. You've got to be taking advantage of these things because it's not guaranteed.
That's right. Honest question before we go, Zach. Honest question before we go. What is the and it's nothing to do with your beard or your long hair that you used to have. The feeling in your gut that creates post 1st of July, that this is coming off the table. Are you feeling scared for the first home buyers, nervous? Are you feeling excited that it's going to create a deadline to make people do it now? What are you feeling?
I'd say I'm excited because change definitely stimulates a certain demographic, people who might not have been previously stimulated, I'd say. So, look, it's exciting in the lead up to the 1st of July to see how many people, will make a run for this outgoing policy. And it's, again, exciting moving forward because that cap is increased for zero stamp duty up front to $800,000. So it will.
That's true.
It will definitely change the landscape and change buyer activity, I'd say, and I think only for the better.
That's true.
Zach, can you jump on the comments while you're right there right now? Write Zach's name in, write his mobile number in, and so people know who to call.
He's whacking in right now for us. But that's the show, guys. It's a compelling reason to be talking to a broker if you're not already, on how you can maximize your deposit, how you can maximize your first home property, and getting quick. But even if you miss this window to get up to the 1.5 mil mark, you can still get a heck of a lot of value for money within that 800,000 range as well. Some amazing 2 bedrooms. Lisa said there, get your properties on the market if you're targeting first home buyers, because I do think it's about to skyrocket. It's an exciting time.
Might be time to give some investors some incentives.
Yeah. What about second home buyers? We haven't seen that yet.
Investors need to come into the market to help the tenants with these rents that are going through the roof. We need more investors.
That's it. I back it.
Bye, beautiful people. I'm going.
Ciao.
See you later.
Hey, thank you, Zach. Thank you so much. That was a big, big message that I think people are finding it really hard to get through all that information. Thanks so much for coming onto the show. Shore Financial Zach in DY Northern Beaches. You got his mobile number there. And Billy, you're a legend for hosting today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, for joining us.
Thanks, gentlemen.
See ya.